welcome Her Honor, the former Mayor of Athens, our respectable guests, dear students, dear friends, dear Suzan Sabancı, member of our Board of Trustees. So we're very happy to be here, to have a singular guest here, Dora Bakoyannis, who's from a neighbor with whom we're having closer and closer relation, and it's going to get closer, we hope. I have the honor of introducing Ms. Dora Bakoyannis. And when you introduce someone, you tell the highlights of her career. Here, it's full of highlights. So I'm going to tell a few highlights, and I will try to keep it short. They send me something, and I spend time editing it down to be able not fixing. But Dora Bakoyannis studied political science in Athens and in Munich. And then he entered the political life. Already in the 80s, he was appointed junior minister, and then he became a full minister in the cabinet as Minister of Culture in 1992. In 2000, she was chosen as the party spokesman for the New Democracy Party. In 2003, she was elected mayor of Athens, which is roughly equivalent to being mayor of metropolitan Istanbul. It's a big problem, a complex problem. And furthermore, on top of that, she had a complex problem or challenge, which we hope we're going to have. In 2004, she led the organization of the Olympic Games in Athens. In 2005, Dora Bakoyannis was presented with the World Mayor Award, and in 2008, the European Award for Regional Policy and Local Government. In 2006, she was appointed Greece's foreign minister, the first foreign minister, I believe, in Greece. And she served in that capacity until 2009. She was elected as the chairperson of the Organizations on Security and Cooperation in Europe in 2009. In 2010, she founded her own party, the Democratic Alliance, and entered a coalition with the New Democracy Party in the 2012 elections. We're very happy to have her here as a very important and very warm personality, and we hope based on this, we're going to have many more interactions with her and her friends and colleagues. Thank you very much, Dora.
Thank you. Dear Professor Becker, dear Susan, professors, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be back in Istanbul and in Turkey, only 5 months since my last visit. I'm more than happy to be today at Sabancı University, and I must say, very impressed, at the most comprehensive social responsibility project in the field of education. It represents not only a prime example of institutional excellence internationally, but also stands as indisputable proof of what the will and determination of visionary people can do, not just for their country, but for society and the world in a whole. Being always in contact with our large neighboring country, Turkey, understanding it, and in turn trying to make Turkish friends understand Greece, has always been a basic parameter in my political activity. And I maintained it in whichever post I've happened to find myself, but most particularly when I was serving as a Minister of Foreign Affairs. As the years go by, one of the most precious outcomes of such a policy of political intimacy, if I may call it so, is that one comes to know a variety of people and gain the privilege of friendship with many of them. This, in its turn, offers one a further insight, the insight resulting from direct and warm human contact. Dear friends, in this context, communicating with the younger generation, as I'm about to do today, it's both a pleasure and a duty. Young people will determine the nature of developments to come, and this generation is one of the most internationally minded ever. This is why I'm particularly pleased to find myself in the company of so many bright young people here today. You are young people who will contribute one day to reshaping your own country, the growing Greco-Turkish friendship, and why not, international developments too. My dear friends, I know that in your minds and in your hearts, you share many hopes and anxieties with the young in the world over, and particularly with the young in your neighboring Greece. But unlike you, who live in a dynamic period in Turkey, a period of rising prosperity and bright prospects, the younger generation in Greece is in a desperate situation. Gloom is the dominant feeling. Nearly 1 in 2 people aged between 18 and 24 years are unemployed. Hundreds of thousands feel they studied in vain, that their degrees are worth nothing, and similar feelings of melancholy and despair prevail in the rest of the population too. But Greece is not alone in feeling that we have lost track of our future and that somehow things are not bright internationally. Dear friends, the Chinese ideogram for crisis, Weiji, it reads, as it has been repeatedly mentioned, means opportunity too. But the great world financial crisis that started in 2008 is still continuing in a variety of ways, and though like all crises, it is a potential opportunity also, this is not apparent anywhere until now. America is still struggling to control her huge debt, exceeding $14 trillion. The European Union is in the midst of the greatest and most serious crisis ever, a crisis that started with Greece's debt problems, but which was revealed soon thereafter to be much more serious, structural, and contagious. It now engulfs not only the southern tier, Greece, Italy, Spain, Portugal, but also Ireland, Slovenia, and partially even Belgium. The European Union core itself is not unaffected either. Growth is sluggish and prospects gloomy. As the southern economies contract, northern exports suffer accordingly. What is far worse is that the crisis is shaking the very psychological foundations of the Union as a community of peoples. Friction and bitterness prevails between North and South. National stereotypes are revived, and extreme right elements bloom in the atmosphere. It is not coincidence that in this climate of mistrust and disintegration, secessionist movements are strengthened everywhere, from Catalonia and the Basque Country in Spain to Scotland in the UK and Flanders in Belgium. Dear friends, it is important to understand that the European crisis is now the epicenter of the global crisis, and that unless it is successfully resolved, not only the global crisis will persist, but it will be greatly deteriorated. The European Union is the world's chief importer and exporter. More than half of all Chinese exports are directed towards the European Union, for example. The global equilibrium will be seriously disturbed in case the crisis of the euro escalates or remains unsolved. Combined with America's enduring debt problem, China's slowing growth, and the BRICS problems and instability in the Middle East and beyond, this cocktail can prove explosive for the global economy and society. Take the case of the BRICS, for example. I will start with China. Development there is still a high 7% and more, but in 2010 it was 10.4%. Yields in the China's stock exchange fell from 11.6 in 2007 to 6.7 last year. 50% of all China's shipyards are expected to close anytime now. Growth in India fell by 50%, and the country showed its deep structural administrative weaknesses during the last large blackout, which sadly affected more than 600 million people. Russia too is in trouble. The shale gas revolution in the US is proving disastrous for Russia since it's lowering the global price of gas. The country will be running a current account deficit by 2015. As the Financial Times has rightly pointed out, the two pillars of the Putin system, an acquiescent middle class, and a gusher of oil and gas money are both looking wobbly. Ladies and gentlemen, it has equally well been pointed out that there is no straight line that links unrest at South African platinum mines to troubles at Chinese electronic factories via a power cut in India, a protest in Moscow, and a corruption probe in Brazil. Yet, these are themes that link the troubles of the BRICS. I would add, they have one thing in common now: plunging currencies. According to Bloomberg, the decline in the BRIC currencies is the worst since 1998. The currencies of Brazil, India, and Russia could tumble another 15% by the end of the year. Turkey, too, according to Kemal Dervish, must be extremely cautious if it doesn't want to follow the path of Greece. Turkish GDP rose by 8.5% in 2011. Jim O'Neill, who coined the acronym BRIC, has included your country in MIST, a second tier of rising stars, alongside Mexico, Indonesia, and South Korea. Yet Turkey must start being cautious. According to The Economist, inflation at 10.4 is high. The current account deficit averaged 10% of GDP last year. Turkey's deficit, measured in dollars, is second only to America's. Much of the foreign capital is on the flighty sort, flows into banks or purchases of stocks or bonds, which can leave again quickly. Before the financial crisis, most of Turkey's FDI was banking deals, said Murat Usher of Global Source Partners in Istanbul. Dear friends, to end the world economic crisis and to enter a period of sound economics and more social justice, two things are of paramount importance if we indeed want to turn this crisis into an opportunity: restructuring the European Union, and most particularly the Eurozone, reforming global economic governance. Restructuring the Eurozone is a matter of the utmost urgency. It has been rightly pointed out that the current European crisis has exposed several flaws in the design of the Eurozone financial system. It was internationally inconsistent. On the one hand, it imposed a no bailout clause, ruling out any bailout to ensure that interest rate differentials provide a clear signal about the buildup of imbalances. On the other hand, basic bank regulations treated sovereign debt essentially as risk-free, implicitly assuming that there would always be a bailout. The latter assumption induced European banks to take on excessive exposure to their own sovereign credit risk. The current design of the Eurozone led to excessive capital flows across borders and a flight to safety of assets when confidence in a country is lost. German bonds are booming, while the indebted countries tighten their budgets, thus causing recession, which in turn further aggravates their debt problem. This is a vicious cycle, and we must break it. This is the mess in which Greece and the other indebted countries, and by extension, the whole of the Eurozone, are now in. Ladies and gentlemen, The Economist has summed it up in just two words: austerity and pretense. It is a wise and laconic description. The North is pretending to be morally superior by demanding austerity, an end to irresponsible Southern behavior. And the South is pretending it can solve its problems by simply obeying. There is no doubt that a major restructuring of, e.g., Greece's finances, administration, etc., is imperative, and for more than 20 years, I have personally been one of the main exponents of that. But for a permanent solution to Europe's debt crisis, I don't need to bring an all in Athens, as the ancient Athenian saying would have it. We need to give unlimited backing to solvent governments like Spain's and Italy's, and to restructure the debt and timetables of insolvent ones, like Greece. We must build a firewall around our banks and ensure deposits, thus halting their flight, which makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. We need Eurobonds of some sort, at least for debt levels exceeding 60%. It is grossly unfair for several countries who buy German products to finance their debt and their economy with 3 times the interest rates of the northern tier. We must turn the European Central Bank into an institution similar to the Federal Reserve, a true lender of last resort. But above all, we must tighten Europe's overall economic governance and reverse its ongoing fragmentation into 2 or 3 tiers. This will ultimately destroy the rich countries too. Underlining all this, as the basic common denominator, must be a new and all-embracing European growth policy. Without it, nothing will ultimately come into fruition. You need growth to be truly able to repay your debt, as growth only alters the debt, the GDP ratio, and makes debt serviceable. You need growth too in order to sustain the Northern Tier's performance, so essential for Europe's global competitiveness. Dear friends, much has been said and written about the world economic governance and the need to change it radically. The present world economic order was designed back in the 50s at Bretton Woods. It will do no more. I am a liberal politician, but the global crisis has shown that the idea that markets are self-regulating received a mortal blow in the recent financial crisis. As Professor Danny Roderick at Harvard has aptly said, as mayor of Athens, even before the crisis, I twice convened top world experts to our most ancient of capitals to discuss the need of a new global economic governance. You can find the minutes of their deliberations and valuable conclusions at the New School of Athens website. Dear friends, let me conclude by recalling some of my most basic points. The global crisis is far from being over. It shows few signs of turning into an opportunity. It is seriously aggravated by the European debt crisis. The European crisis contaminates the US, China, and the world at large. Regions or blocks of countries hitherto seen as happy surprises, like the BRICS, face mounting problems. Turkey also must be careful, lest it follows the global downturn. But my 2 main premises are the following. Facing the EU crisis in Central for world economic balance, a new world economic governance is essential. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, thank you for the attention, and believe me that we will correct our mistakes so that your generation will have a better future. Thank you very much. Now I must stay here and answer questions? Okay. I will.
Thank you, Bakoyannis. Can I start having questions? Maybe you can say a few words about yourself.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for your speech. I'm a PhD student in political science here. It's my 2nd year, but I had my 2nd master's in the University of Athens, Kappadostriako, in Southeast European Studies. It was 3 years ago. Before I have been to King's College London, and you have been to LSE for a speech. I was also in that.
So it's the 2nd time we meet?
Yes. I had also one question at that time about Cyprus. Now we can see how the content, how the agenda is changing. Actually, no one would believe a Greek politician would speak about economics in Turkey rather than Turkey's accession to the EU or Turkish-Greek conflicts about Cyprus or any other issue. This is a kind of actually surprising thing for all of us, for both Turkish citizens and also Greeks, I think, here. I would like to again ask, since my expertise in EU affairs and EU studies, how would you see the role of Turkey in this structure that you have mentioned for the close and long future? We know Turkey's accession is still problematic in Turkey to the EU. Even though it's not the priority of Turkish society or government at the moment, we are still on the track. I know Greece has a lot of problems that you have also mentioned, but how would be the reaction of Greece for the future of Turkey's accession to the EU, and how would you see Turkey not as a Greek politician, but maybe as European for the future of Europe? Thank you very much.
Okay, just δώσουμε ένα χαρτί για να θυμάμαι και να μολύβει. Thank you very much.
You want to ask a question? Shall I, çocuklar, leave our director to ask a question? Okay, we'll have the second question from Nihat Bey and then third from you.
Thank you very much for your excellent talk. I would like to ask the following question. You talked about political, economic governance, but in Europe also political governance. Maybe as a result of this lesson, a centralized European Parliament, political governance, is that going to emerge? Are the European elections are going to be in each of the countries more than a referendum on the parties, but they're true to the essence of that problem in the future? And do you agree that that would be a great step forward?
Thank you. And then we'll have the last question from Ike and then third back.
Thank you very much for your presentation. This is Ilke Torgür. I'm also a PhD candidate in Spain, Universidad Autónoma de Madrid. I wanted to ask you about social movements in Greece, because with Spain, I would say Athens and Madrid are sharing the most fruitful and most, how can I say, violent and everything demonstrations as the social movement of Europe. And I was really wondering your opinions as former mayor of Athens, and the attitude of the police and all the reactions towards the social movements. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for these questions. Let me start with Turkey. Greece is a strong supporter of Turkish accession to the European Union. When I first mentioned it many years ago to our European friends, they were mad. They said, look, you Greek and Turks have so many differences. Why are you supporting Turkey to become a member of the European Union? Mainly some friends in France were very mad. And they started speaking about European Union being a club of Christians. Now, this is a basic mistake. The European Union is not a club of Christians. The European Union is a club of values. The European Union is a club of people who believe in the same rights, in the same values, and this makes us also different to a lot of other unions around the world. So I believe Turkey belongs inside the European Union. I know that at the time, with all the problems the European Union has, we are not very attractive. And I know that the political system in Turkey believes that Turkey can stay a regional power and a big economic power, and that the European Union is not so needed. But the truth is that I believe that the European Union will face her problems. We will be able, it's always like that. It goes slowly, but the decisions are taken at the end of the day. And I believe that for Turkey, which has today a very dynamic society and a very good economy, it is important to become part of the European Union. Of course, she has also to keep her part of the bargain. And what I was always saying to my friends in Europe or to my colleagues is, look, We are asking Turkey to keep her part of the bargain, and she has to do it. In the questions of civil rights, in the questions of democracy, in the questions of foreign policy. But on the other side, we, the European Union, have to keep also our part of the bargain. And our part of the bargain said that if you meet your agreements, then we will have to keep our word and accept Turkey as a full member in the European Union. So that's my personal position, but it's also the Greek position in foreign policy. And I believe that at the end of the day, your generation will see that. Because it is important, I think, for both. Of course, it won't be easy, because there will be referendums in some countries, because unfortunately the crisis has brought up a lot of nationalistic thinking in Europe, and this is the great danger. And coming back to your answer, the problem is not only an economic problem in the European Union. The problem is a political problem. And what we are facing now is the worst part of history coming alive again. Practically what happened is the crisis brought societies, or part of the societies, to despair. They are very easily listening to ultra-right nationalistic thinking. In Greece, where we had the experience of the dictatorship, where we have fought the Nazis in the Second World War and had thousands of dead people from the Nazi invasion, we have today a party which by the Gallups is around 10%, which is a Nazi party. They greet themselves with the Nazi greeting. It's incredible. And when you ask yourself, why is this happening? It is happening because the social unrest, the despair, the immigrants problem, etc., is so big that it became the only solution for these people to go to accept the thinking which was unacceptable when I was their age. So we need to have a political solution in Europe. We need to have a better and stronger political union. We need to have a common immigration policy. It is not possible that the people who go through Turkey arrive in Greece, these people in despair from Bangladesh, from Afghanistan, from Syria, from Iraq, and because of the European agreements, they are obliged to stay in Greece. And now we have more than 20%, and our population is not like Turkey. We are 11%, 11 million. So we have more than 20% immigrants today, and we cannot pay for them, and we don't know how to deal with the problem. So that's what I mean. We need a stronger political union. And I think this economic crisis, why I believe it's always an opportunity, this economic crisis will oblige us to do it. Because the governments do not like it. The governments do not want to give part of their, how do you call it, of their national rights up to a Central European one. But we will be obliged to do it. There is no other way. If we want to keep Europe, and if we want, and I said also for my friend Angela Merkel, said it is different if Angela Merkel goes to China as the first power in a united Europe, and it is different if she goes just as the Chancellor of Germany. And this is important for all of us to understand. We have to give part of our rights up, national rights, if we want to build a very strong union. So the basis is political, and then comes the economic governance. Social unrest. It is hell in Greece today. It is incredible. what I said starting this speech. Can you imagine that 50% of the young people who studied, the young people who are full of hopes and dreams for their life, cannot find a job? We have the biggest immigration of young people. There is all the good brains are leaving Greece, which is the worst thing which can happen to us. So people lost 30% of their income at an average. And of course, some of them lost all their income because they are jobless. So yes, there is social unrest. Less than one would expect, I would say, under the situation. I think that most of the Greek people understand that we lived for 30 years above our income. We lived 30% more than our income. We became a society of rich people, but on loans. So it was not our money. We didn't produce it. So they understand that, and they understand that we must adapt. But it's very difficult, very difficult. I mean, the police is trying to do its job. We don't have police extremes in Greece. And I saw a report in the BBC. It was very exaggerated. It does not happen. The police in Greece, due to the dictatorship which we had, where the people are very, whenever they see a policeman, he's much more scrutinized than anybody else. I don't think that this is the case. But the problem is the real problem. The real problem is that we have a humanitarian crisis in Greece. And that's why I very openly said to our partners in Europe that, look, you cannot ask the Greek people of more austerity, because it's impossible. They cannot have more austerity. I mean, I voted for all the austerity plans until now. I'm known in Greece as somebody who always was very, very keen on structural changes in Greece, which are needed in the economy. But I said I will not vote another austerity program because it's counterproductive. It's totally counterproductive today. You cannot cut more wages. You cannot cut more pensions. What you must focus on is growth. What we need is investment, new jobs. What we need is money to come into Greece. And we will be able to deliver. We will be able to stand up again. Greece is a country with a lot of capital. We can do it. I mean, when I was the mayor of the Olympic Games, I gave 1,796 interviews. And 1,796 journalists told me, you will never make it. You will never make it. You are a small country, you are bad organized, you Greeks are never organized enough, you are late, you will never make it. Well, we did it, and we did the best Olympic Games. So we will do that also. I strongly believe in the Greek people, and I believe we will make it. But it will be tough. It will be tough for the next 3 or 4 years. We will have tough times, and that's why we need to protect those tranches of the society who are the most vulnerable ones. And these are the pensioners, these are the mothers, the one-family households. These are people who have for many years not a job. But it is also very difficult for us politicians. People see a politician and are angry, partly rightly so, because we politicians are responsible for the last 30 years for the situation in Greece. We, as you know, in Greece have 12 gods, but the politicians added one. They added the 13th god of the political cost. So whatever we were thinking was no political cost. So we gave more money, we made bigger loans. So of course, and rightly so, the first to pay will be the political system. And those people who allowed themselves to be demagogues instead of real politicians. So the changes are in front of us, so I look at you, and I hope that this generation, like in Greece, also in Turkey, will be the new leaders of tomorrow, and you will be better off because you will have learned from our mistakes. Thank you very much. Τώρα όμως πρέπει πια λίγο νερό.
Okay, 4 of us first, please.
Tamam, bizi fotoğrafa çağırdılar da. Ha, tamam. Ben 20 bin daha iyi. 4
One more with our please.
Great, actually. Yeah, thanks a lot for making.
No, you're welcome. I'm always. I love it. Yeah.
And we actually talked before you came exactly some of the issues you raised. So.
Yeah, okay, so it's not like... We're going to have lunch, then if we have time and tour, and we can give more information during lunch on the university. Ben özel
Okay,
Dora Bakoyannis
Öyle mi? Nerede?
böyle bir şey daha fazla ilgi göstermeleri beklerdim aslında.